So normally I try to put out videos every Monday and I work on those videos on every weekend. However, this entire weekend I spent in Arlington and, well, as a result of that, I couldn't really make a video for Monday. So instead we're doing the traditional thing, the YouTube tradition of crowdsourcing my creative ideas by shoving it off onto you guys and asked you to ask me some questions, and I figured I'd just try my hand at answering as many as I could. And there are going to be several questions that you guys have asked that I will not be answering in this because I've decided that they're just so good, they might even deserve their own video. So if you don't have your question answered today, don't feel too bad about it, feel good about it, and keep watching to see what comes around the corner. So we'll go ahead and start with the elephant in the room and what has happened to my face. I mean, it's kind of obvious that something has happened here, right? Well, I'll tell you, I'm okay. But it's a story that, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's start with the questions that you guys have asked. Starting with Smitey, who asked about my favorite RPG soundtracks. And there's really just so many. But I feel like Yasunori Mitsuda always gets me, man. Especially with all the time that I spent playing Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross over the years. It's just, how could I not have just this deep connection to anything that guy touches? It's incredible, really. Specifically, his work in Chrono Cross is like a shortcut to my heart, which is why I kind of used a lot of his music in my last video, where I was talking about the various updates to the channel and talking about places you can find me like Twitch and Twitter and Patreon if you're interested. But there's a whole separate video for that if you want to know more about that. Legendary Zoltan asks about my day job. As a day job, I'm IT support basically for a web app that people use to track the effectiveness of the educations and things that they deliver and the efficacies thereof and the impacts that it has on people. It's a very boring thing. It's very dry stuff. Next question. AP Stevens asks about a movie or series that would make for a really good RPG adaptation. That's a bit tricky because I feel like I haven't really been keeping up with a lot of the newer stuff that a lot of people know about. But I mean, there's a lot of fantasy books and stuff that could probably translate pretty well. The tricky part about that is that whenever you try to adapt something that exists rather than creating something from scratch, you're always aiming to sort of retell a story that people already kind of know and love. The result of that is that if you adapt that, then you're gonna lose a lot of the rigidity of that story that's been told already, that's been crafted by the author. So you're gonna find yourself very much pigeonholed into basically just trying to accomplish things a very specific way. The Dragon Ball Z adaptation on Super Famicom, for instance, fell into that exact trap. They did sort of deviate in a lot of ways if you accomplished things differently, and that was kind of neat. Now, all of that said, Hunter x Hunter is, as of right now, my favorite anime, and Tagashi, the creator of Hunter x Hunter, is a huge Dragon Quest fan. Dude, it would be so awesome to be able to see Hunter x Hunter get turned into an RPG. It would probably never be able to happen because the series hasn't even finished yet, but that, if I could wave a magic wand, that would probably be it. Duo Beard has asked me what makes me super, and the answer to that question is editing. I basically, whenever I'm on camera, I try to bring forward the best parts of my personality while, you know, using editing to remove a lot of these stammering, stuttering, and all of the things that make me less than super. Basically, I am SuperDerek because I am the best form of myself whenever I'm on camera, or at least that's what I try to bring. Miami Sunrise asks about any other options or channel types or names that I had in mind. Well, to be totally honest, SuperDerek RPGs didn't start off as SuperDerek RPGs, it just started off as SuperDerek. It was just me, and I talked about games in the game collection, and the game collection was about just video games that I thought were worth collecting initially. And I wanted to talk about them and review them, and it just so happened that after like the first 7 games, oops, all I've reviewed so far are, well, RPGs. And I also did that one weird video where I talked about Sega, the whole Sega retrospective, which is okay. It's an okay video, but it has nothing to do with the rest of my entire channel. But that was like video number 3 for me. So initially, this wasn't an RPG channel, it just sort of became that way through naturally just wanting to skew that direction. that's kind of how it happened. It's just I had one idea as far as like names and stuff. Yeah, there was a time when I was like just trying to come up with a moniker, which I eventually landed on SuperDerek, but I'm sure I went through a bunch of other iterations of Awesome Derek, Ultra Derek, whatever. Basically, the idea that I had when I came up with the idea of the name SuperDerek was basically I'd been listening to a lot of like Screw Attack back in the day, and there was an episode of their Side Scrollers podcast in which Stuttering Craig happened to talk about how he acquired the name Stuttering Craig, and Handsome Tom ended up on Handsome Tom. From some time on radio, that was something that they had come up with as a way to help them stand out, because nobody's going to remember Craig or Tom, but they'll remember Stuttering Craig or Handsome Tom. Similarly, I didn't think anybody would remember just Derek, so I'm SuperDerek. And also, I believe that's where Pro Jared got his name as well. So, ow. So, you can't make that up. So it seemed like a pretty cool idea for me to try to follow in those footsteps, and I guess it's kind of stuck. Z2R asked a series of questions, but I'm going to pick my favorite from the list. Why did I ever start this journey, and did I ever consider quitting YouTube? I started this journey because I was bored and I needed a creative outlet. There was a whole lot of things going on at the time, and essentially it equates down to I was having some sort of midlife crisis in my mid-20s, and I really was very unhappy in a particular job that I was in, and things had just come to a head with another creator who was on YouTube, where I had aspirations of trying to join a troupe, but I'm not really going to get into that. But long story short, it did not end up working out in any sense of the word, and I was kind of crushed by that. I decided to take all of these things and sort of put them together into an inspiration to do my own thing. If nothing else, to allow it to be sort of a portfolio for myself to use to get a different job at some point, or maybe get up out of the career that I was really dissatisfied with, or to leave behind some sort of legacy if I was going to, shuffle off this mortal coil before my time was due. What would I leave behind? Well, I'd have these videos. That's sort of the impetus for when I started making YouTube videos. And the strange thing is, I kind of started it with the idea that I would just give it my best go, and I would probably forget about it eventually and stop doing it. Because that's how it's always been with any other sort of hobby that I've ever had. I've played guitar, and I got okay with it. I joined Taekwondo and I got my black belt, and then I got kind of bored with that. And so this is my next new big thing. I tried getting into comics and making comic books and stuff, and none of my aspirations ever really stuck until now. Well, until 8 years ago, and I guess it's continued sticking ever since. The closest I probably came to quitting YouTube was shortly after my Breath of Fire reviews, or in the middle of my Breath of Fire series reviews, where I played through Fallout New Vegas, and that game just sucked all of my time away, and for some reason I didn't review it or record any of it. I just took a little hiatus for 3 months and played the heck out of New Vegas and really enjoyed it, and then I was like, I should get back to the Breath of Fire series reviews. And then I came back and did it. So that said, at this point, I take YouTube far more seriously, and I'm fighting way harder to keep my channel growing and to stay competitive in this incredibly competitive social media platform. So, just saying, if you like these videos, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I guess that does also tie into Z2R's other question. He had 4 of them, but one of the other questions is, what is my dream job? And the answer to that question is this. This is my dream job. All of it. I want to continue doing this for as long as I can, and it would be incredible to be able to do this for a living. If I had a dream really big, I'd be like, oh man, if I could join the cast of Critical Role. That would be a dream job and a half, but also probably incredibly anxiety-inducing. Because at that point, I'd be working with a whole ton of voice actors. That's another dream job of mine, is to be a voice actor. But to work with a whole bunch of other voice actors and play incredible games of D&D, but also the added pressure of having to perform on that level, it'd be an incredible experience, but also, holy moly. Duke of Greece also asked a couple of questions here. Content creation can be a struggle sometimes, where I'm the sole worker in research, scripting, filming, editing, thumbnails, and all that. So he says, what part do I have the most fun with? How do you make the less fun parts more enjoyable? The parts that I have most fun with, honestly, for the most part, is when I'm playing the games themselves. That's the fun part. Writing a review has always been, for the most part, pretty easy and almost effortless. Honestly, I'm very, I guess, blessed in that writing the reviews is something that I really enjoy doing. Filming has always been kind of more difficult for me. I was a lot less comfortable on camera. I weighed a lot more not too long ago. I was always very careful about my camera angles and stuff to not show, just how big I had gotten. So filming was always kind of like one of those less fun aspects, but I also realized at the time that it's also one of the things that helps me kind of stand out is that I'm willing to be on camera and to interact with you directly instead of just like through voiceover. Voiceover has always been pretty easy. I feel like the worst part is whenever I'm trying to remember a very specific script. I feel like that's the worst. That's the very worst part. Whenever I'm trying to remember a script and recite it without just trying to think of it on the fly, that's not my strong suit. I've got a pretty bad memory for stuff like that, and I don't really know how to overcome it. I've been finding that as I do more of these off-the-cuff sort of unscripted videos where I have maybe an outline that I'm following, it's a lot easier to sort of do that sort of thing, but I do still find myself umming and pausing for long periods or restarting over a new sentence for no apparent reason. I did have a bit of a speech impediment growing up, and I feel like as a result of that is something that comes through in the way that I speak a little more slowly sometimes. It's also probably a big contributor to why I stutter sometimes, is that I'm trying to make sure that I speak clearly and enunciate well, and that doesn't always work, but I do find myself being hypercritical of myself when I speak, which makes speaking off the cuff a little more extra stressful, because while I'm here talking to you guys, in the back of my brain, I'm going like, no, is that word right? Is that word right? Did I say that right? It's editing yourself on the fly, and that's the struggle, but I feel like what really helped me overcome a lot of the anxiety that goes into being on camera and talking is actually streaming on Twitch and hanging out with people in the chat. That's something that's really, I feel like, loosened me up a lot over the years. Holy crap. If you see my very first Earthbound video to, gosh, what was the first? I think the very first game I started streaming was Sword of Mana. There was some improvement between those, but it wasn't until after Sword of Mana that I feel like my comfort level on front of cameras really started to just sort of take off. That's got a lot to do with hanging out and chatting with everybody on the fly. I was very much an introvert. I still am an introvert. I mean, you can't really change that, but you can get better at pretending not to be an introvert. And anyways, one of the things that makes it more fun to film, I find, is to be able to laugh at myself and to laugh at my own mistakes, which is why I think I try to embrace the cheese factor, because if I can laugh at myself, if I can make myself laugh, somebody else out there is probably laughing too. And I feel like that's probably at least a pretty good starting point. If I can at least laugh, I can be comfortable, and I can shake myself out of my own damn head and, and have fun. Now, as for my face, what exactly happened? Well, I heard it while I was hanging out with Wood from Beat 'em Ups, and we'll be talking about that over on our podcast, which I've secretly been producing for the last 6 months. It's the Wood and Eric Show, and now I'm taking on a bit more of a visible role within that show. Just so you know, I've been doing more than just streaming 3 to 4 times a week and making 2 videos per week. I'm also the producer of the Wood and Eric Show. And it's been a pretty crazy good time, and I've been making good friends with Eric. I was already really good friends with Wood from Beat 'em Ups, and now, God, it's just been so nice to hang out with friends and to have that weekly interaction with other people again, let alone the fact that it's a crazy cool podcast. Anyways, it's not just about video games. It's mostly not about video games, in fact. So if you just want to see some friends hang out and talk about stuff, it's a highly entertaining show. We try to bring our best and be almost maybe overproduced in some ways. It's not just a podcast. It's really, at times, it transcends into like a show, an event. Every episode we try to make it into a bit of an event. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I will link to also, and you can check out some of the old videos that we've already recorded. And be sure to follow Beat 'em Ups on Twitch in order to see when we go live on the weekends. And in the upcoming episode, we'll be recapping what happened that caused this to happen. Yes, I'm clickbaiting my own face. Go over there. But we will be talking about it, and I want you to over there, because it'd be really great to actually bring my audience in addition to Woods and Eric's, and to actually have all you guys over there as well. And I'll see you guys there. But until then, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, everybody.